Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my second channel. So today we're going to be talking about the Norvina palette and I'm going to just test it out and see what my amateur ass makes of it, whether someone who has my level of makeup skills or lack thereof can still manage it, whether it's difficult to deal with, and all that good stuff. However, before we get into it, I do want to talk about the palette itself just for a brief second. This is the palette, very pretty packaging. This is what the inside looks like. These are the colors. I loved them. I'm a sucker for purples, so you can see why this would appeal to me specifically. With the palette, I didn't have to pay anything extra, but they gave me an eye primer, which I will be using in this video. One thing we need to talk about this palette specifically is something that Kevin James Bennett brought my attention to on Twitter, where he was talking about the price point of this palette in comparison to the price point of a regular Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. These palettes, if I recall correctly, are $42. This one was $60. Now, of course, you're gonna say, hey, that one's bigger, it makes sense, right? Well, not exactly, because as Kevin James Bennett pointed out, if we do the math, and even as someone like me who sucks at math, it doesn't really add up that there's that little of a price difference between these two when we're counting how much of a product difference there is. Now, the question that comes up is it because of quality, or is it because they in some other way cut their production costs? Like, what happened behind the scenes? Now, that's not me saying this palette sucks. That's me saying that Kevin James Bennett brought up an interesting point. And when you look at it in a mathematical perspective, strictly just looking at the numbers, it is a little bit curious. However, that's not going to change what I think of this palette. It's just curious. Here we go. I'm going to show you how I did this look and I'll give you my thoughts at the end. So this is the primer that came with the palette. Consistency is a little bit more liquidy than I expected, but that's not necessarily bad. So because the consistency was more liquidy than I expected, a lot more than I needed came out, so I did, by my own mistake, waste some, but I did not expect it to be that liquidy, I guess. So then I'm just gonna go and set it with my banana powder, the one that's all crushed and disgusting. Quick refresher on the colors inside this palette. A lot of this is pink and purple, so I feel like I'm gonna try and use a little bit of as many colors as I can without ending up looking like a clown, hopefully. So I've heard a lot about the white, so I'm gonna go in with that first. There's quite a bit of fallout, but as you know, I don't really care. I'm surprised that it's this white, and it might be just because all the whites I've had prior just suck. But it seems to work relatively well as far as my amateur ass can see. I mean, I think the white's picking up on camera. Like, from here I look like a fucking clown, so I'm assuming you can see the white. I don't know why exactly I chose this color or why I'm doing this, and I don't even know why I'm using this brush. I'm just using a fluffy brush. It looks dirty, but I just cleaned it. I'm seeing creases. Now that could be my own fault, but I'm gonna say it in case it's not. And I am focusing the majority of the color up here, so it's normal that down here it's obviously not as purple because that's not really where I wanted the majority of this particular shade to be. At first I was a little bit concerned because it seemed like some of the eyeshadow wouldn't move, like it would just stick in an area. But I don't feel like that was that hard to quote-unquote blend, and I say quote-unquote because my blending. With this brush, I'm gonna go into the shade A2. This brush has been permanently turned pink. Every time I wash it, it just stays pink. And I'm just gonna put it on the lid where essentially there's next to no color right now. Yeah, it packs on color pretty fast. It's right here. I feel like it's always moving. Like, instead of spreading the color uniformly, it seems to be somewhat patchy. And again, this could all be my amateurish errors, so take everything I say with multiple grains of salt because this is just my impression. I'm just gonna go back in with this one with no eyeshadow on it just to blend out the two colors. It seems okay. I can't tell if it's maybe this primer that's making me feel a little bit weird, because if you look right here, and I'll try to zoom in, it seems a little bit patchy, at least in real life. Like when I look at it in the mirror right here, it looks a little bit patchy, and I do think I did spread it uniformly. I'm gonna try shade D2 without wetting my brush just to see what happens, and then I'll wet it if it doesn't have the desired effect. Yeah, this kind of goes with the dry feeling where like I feel like you put it down, and once you put it down, you can't really, I don't feel like you can do much with it. Like I don't know if it moves as much as I'd want it to. I'm gonna try doing this side dry, and then I'm gonna do the other side with a wet brush and see what happens. I'm more concerned about the edge here, whether it'll like blend out at all. Forget this part because I'm gonna cover that in a second, but I feel like it looks okay. I'm gonna try with a wet brush just to see. I'm gonna put some of the wet over here. I know that it's still wet right now, so it might dry down and look exactly the same, but I do prefer how vibrant it is here like this. Okay, while I let that dry, let's move on. I'm really trying to use a lot of colors here, and this is very much out of my comfort zone, so if this is a complete flop, I'm sorry in advance. And I'm gonna use the brush that I just cleaned that was wet, so it's probably gonna still be damp, which turns out well because this is another metallic. That's actually really pretty, the pink. My brush is barely wet, so I think that if I actually wet it entirely, it probably would have an even better effect. Yeah, that made a huge difference, especially compared to that bluish color. This color wet is a whole other thing. So this is where we're at for now. It's still messy, I know. I'm gonna use this brush and go back into the purple D2. The last thing I wanted to do in terms of colors, and I'll do my under eye in a second, I was thinking of putting the bright pink, which is A5, in my inner corner, which could really make this look terrible. So we're just gonna try and take it in stride. By the way, this is the brush I'm using. Inner corners are interesting because I feel like it can either look really cool or you look crazy, like a bird. I look like a bird in the viewfinder, so. Okay, leaving aside how it looks with my look, the pink is, you know, pretty neon considering I didn't put much on it. I'm gonna do my eyeliner and then the rest of my base makeup, and then I'll come back and I'll do my under eye so we can see the finished look all together and see if it's entirely crazy looking. Alright, so I'm back. I didn't change anything about my eyes except the eyeliner and the lashes like I said. Then I finished my base. Now I wanted to finish up the inner eye, and then I wanted to do the under eye. So I'm gonna just go over a little bit on the inner eye because I think some of my concealer probably covered up a little bit of the pink. Ooh, I poked myself, ouch. I do really like A5 this color, and I'm just dragging it a little bit out just because I don't know what I'm doing. Going forward, I'm gonna use one of the first purples I used up here to just go under my eye, and after that I'm pretty much gonna be done with this look. I think I already did too much out of my comfort zone, to be honest. I'm just gonna pass it under my eye and make it meet with the pink and blend them. So this is what my eyes look like now that I'm done. Not perfect, but I do think it looks okay. So my final thoughts about this palette, I really enjoyed the shade range, specifically this neon pink, and I liked the purples I worked with. Now, of course, I didn't work with every single color. I did try to add in as many colors as I could. I think it worked well. I think the metallics, like any other metallic of an Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, when they're wet, they usually function better. When they're dry, they're really dry. It almost feels like your brush is raspy. I don't know if that makes sense, but the texture, you feel it under your brush, right? I think that this palette, in my opinion, is at the same standard of any other Anastasia Beverly Hills palette I've tried. I've tried all of them except for Subculture and the Mario palette from back in the day, but all the recent releases I have tried / own. I don't see any inconsistencies between the quality of those and that one for the colors I've tried so far. You get a lot of product, which we go back to the price thing and the grams, but you do get a lot more product than a typical palette, so the higher price is justified, though it's technically not as high as it should be if we're just looking at it in terms of ratio, right? I would recommend it. I do think it's easy to use for someone like me who is not, you know, an expert in any way, shape, or form. and I do think that it has enough really pretty colors. That being said, I have to say, as much as I do like this palette, I don't think it's groundbreaking in the sense of, oh my god, never seen these colors before, because we've had a lot of palettes come out with fluorescent neon colors. We've had some palettes that are focused on purples and pinks and dusty colors already. So I don't think it's a necessary palette, but I have to say I've been super bored with makeup releases recently. Like, I've not given one single fuck about any makeup release for months now, except for this one. So this one spoke to me on a personal level, I guess. But I do recognize that some of these colors I probably already have, but I think that I like the fact that all of these colors are in one single palette instead of me having to get like 5 different palettes to have the 5 colors I want, if that makes sense. Anyways, guys, if you've tried this palette, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts, opinions are, especially about the price thing Kevin James Bennett brought up. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.